Okay, welcome everybody to this webinar, Two Steps Forward, Two Steps Back, with myself and Rianna. Just Karen sends her apologies. Sadly, she's not able to make it today. She's facing some really difficult health challenges for both herself and her family, both her mum and dad. So Karen, we're sending you lots of love and support for the difficult few days and weeks that are ahead for you. But we'll try and do you proud, and I know this is a really passionate topic for you. So me and Rianna are going to crack on and move forward with this. So the webinar, Two Steps Forward, Two Steps Back. The reason we wanted to do this is all three of us have moved significantly forward in our journey, but we wanted to share with you how we've done that, but also to give you the comparison of where we were, how many years have passed to where we are today, and then to share with you like the tips and techniques which we have used to be able to move forward, not forgetting and the reality that we are permanently childless, not by choice. And can we be happy continually in our lives? And so there are things currently in both of our lives which will cause us some things to overcome. And we wanted to share that reality with you. So just to give you a brief introduction to myself, I'm 6 years into my childless, not by choice journey. When I was 40, I sadly separated from my husband and was facing being childless. Not by choice, it's by circumstance. We had inexplained being childless. So, you know, at that time, 6 years ago, it was very difficult for me. I moved away from my home, my family, I lost my job, I was significantly in debt. And to say that I was like literally, I couldn't see a way forward, and I couldn't afford the help that I needed. And the NHS really were not supportive because the councils were talked about their children. So, you know, it was a really, really difficult time for me 6 years ago. And that's where I came from. So the inspiration for me to start Happy and Childless was because I'm passionate that we deserve to be happy, that it's not my fault that I was in this situation. And I had a lot of self-blame and a lot of lack of self-worth. And I had to work and dig really deep to find my way forward, which I thankfully and gratefully have done. So we want to talk about where we were and where we are today, but the in-between. But firstly, where I am today. So 6 years later, I'm in a completely different place. I'm in a relationship with somebody who actually has 3 adult children, which has its challenges in itself, although they're great party people, so that's a good thing. And recently, in the last 18 months, I now have step grandchildren. His daughter has a baby, which was a complete shock to my system, and something which has massively challenged me in the last 18 months. She's also due to have another baby in January. So my reality, I am living my best life. I've traveled to 24 countries in the last 2 years. I've built a business. I'm doing what I'm passionate about, which is coaching and helping people to move forward and to hopefully inspire others. But I'm happy and childless all the time. If you ask my partner, I am the unhappiest happy and childless person going. So no, I am not happy and childless. And I do get questioned about the happy and childless title. You know, what if you're not happy and childless? But, you know, it's just about the belief that I strongly believe that we can be happy and we have to find our way forward because we deserve it. And that's why it's called Happy and Childless. So that's where I was, that's where I am. Over to you, Rianna.
Yeah, wow. What an introduction. First of all, I want to say that I'm super grateful to being here. I mean, this is a beautiful opportunity that we both have, Helen and I, to share our story, but also be there of support to others. So my journey is, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I am living a nomadic lifestyle since the past 12 years, which means that just like Helen has seen a lot of beautiful countries in the past 2 years, I've been traveling since 12 years, living here and there, beautiful beaches, done amazing adventures. And I was really living a great life until infertility knocked on my door. And that's been 7.5 years ago now. And we started getting in treatments, tests, treatments, IUIs, IVFs, and people kept telling me, you're so young, it's going to work out, don't worry about it. But every time we came back to that point that it didn't work out. And so that's been going on for 6 years. And then our story came to an end and we ended up childless, not by choice, after infertility. And that moment that I came on the other side, I always call it. That's been like one of my lowest moments in my life, because for me it was really that moment, like I felt so lonely. I didn't belong anywhere anymore, because I made a lot of friends who were also going through IVF. First of all, I lost a lot of friends who didn't know that I was pushing my body through all the IVF procedures and everything. And they were like, stop this, you're harming yourself, you're emotionally a wreck. And but they didn't understand the desire that I had, and that I always had this thought, like, it's going to be worth it one day. Just keep going. It's going to be worth it. And then you come on the other side, and all those friends that I made who were still in the IVF process, they were still there with their hope, which was gone for me. But then there were all the moms who had a baby. They went through the IVF and they got a baby. I didn't belong to that group neither. And then there were all the people who ended up childless, but called themselves now child-free, because they felt like, I've built a life that I could not have done with a family, so I'm calling myself child-free. So I was in this limbo in the middle of nothingness, and I had no people around me. And one of the things that I started doing in that moment was building community. So I started connecting one-on-one with people, and we had conversations. And then I had so many different people around me who were in exactly the same situation as I was. Feeling lost and lonely. We could so much relate to each other. And then I was like, I need to bring those people together. So that's what I started doing. I started hosting a women's circle. And I wanted them to meet each other and have this conversation in a bigger group. And from the women's circle, if you know me a little bit, you know that I'm hosting walking and hiking retreats, because we wanted more, a deeper connection, and really being there in person. So that's where I am right now. I have my ups and downs, and we're going to talk about that throughout this talk together. But I have strongly this feeling like I've wasted, even though I have no regrets of anything that I did going through all the procedures, but I've wasted 6 years of my life. I've been sitting on beaches and looking in mountains and not enjoyed it. There are pictures, and that's one of the things that I post on Instagram as well. There's a picture of me that is beautiful, and I don't even remember where it was. I don't even remember where. I was just so emotionally lost. I was close to a depression, and it's been a long journey. It's been 1.5 years now that I'm childless, not by choice, and it's a journey. It's with a lot of ups and downs, and that's what we're gonna talk about today as well. So.
Thank you so much for giving that overview and your story. And one of the things, I think the reason we wanted, this is a day of moving forward, so we really want to like provide inspiration, don't we? And
yeah,
one thing that we want to talk about is, how did we move forward or start to move forward? And for me, there's clear moments of like things that happened. So I've always spoken about this. I mean, recognizing that I was grieving, and not just a complete fluke, which I was acting like at the time. But there was reason for my instability. It was the grief. But things for me that are really important is connection. Not just with other people, but with myself. Like I completely lost who I was. Like I was a shadow of who I am today. And today I'm not who I was then or before. But yeah, connecting with self, I'd lost so much of myself.
Yeah. It's this identity shift that you have to make suddenly, right? Because there's this big vision of becoming a mom, and that's the vision. And then when it's not there and it's not gonna happen anymore, who are you? I don't know if you had those questions, but like, who am I? What do I want? How am I gonna fill in my life now?
Yeah, and I think like purpose, what is our purpose? At the time, I just lost everything in my life, and it was a blank canvas. Yeah. And I literally couldn't see a way forward. But I think I had to start to look at, and I use this analogy, and I remember thinking it exactly at that time. I am in the biggest load of grief I've ever been, and I literally can't get out of this massive vat of grief. That's how it felt. I felt like I was drowning in this vat of horrible grief. And I just thought, okay, I've got to start now and I could visualize it, pour just little bits of whatever it was of joy that brought something different you know, because I wasn't doing anything that made me happy. I didn't value anything because I just focused on marriage and children. You know,
Yeah.
and I talk about this life matrix of the 9 boxes of all the things important. And at that time, the only thing I had in my life was marriage and children. So when that was blown out of the equation, I was like, no wonder my life was empty because I hadn't focused on anything else. So the first stage for me was what I talk about with people is to look at like where I am in my life and what I have and where I'm focusing. And I was focusing on a box which had gone. So my life just felt like I was in a void. You know, so
Mm.
that analogy of like putting a little bit of joy into that vat of grief, you know, with the hope that the grief will disperse a little bit and that mixture in that vat would become a little bit more balanced. But
Yeah.
to be totally honest, it's a mixed bag now, isn't it? So there's still some grief in there, but there's
Yeah.
massive. I poured so much joy into it that it's more manageable, and I think that is where I am at now.
That's so beautiful. That's really beautiful how you, I feel like for me, the biggest step was really, um, I remember like, I think it was 3 months in and I woke up one night and I was so mad because I wanted to move on. I wanted to get rid of some of the grief, the heaviness, and I wanted to move further, but I didn't know how. And I remember that night I woke up and I was thinking like, no, actually I was not thinking. I was just crying and I was mad. And my husband woke up and he said like, what's going on? And I said, I don't want this anymore. I cannot keep living this for the rest of my life, being so sad, locking myself inside because nobody outside the world understood me. I mean, people are compassionate for a moment. And then at one moment, they just keep saying like, you need to accept it and move on. But how do you accept something that you don't want? How do you accept something that you cannot change? And so when I found out about the distinction between accepting and acknowledging it, I was like, okay, I can acknowledge where I am right now. I can acknowledge the situation without putting any judgment to it. I cannot accept it. But that was one of my first steps. I like, okay, I am childless. I am not going to become a mother. And having this like without the judgment around it and not accepting it, but just acknowledging it. And that was for me like that helped me in my first step. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think being, you know, because we are so misunderstood, aren't we? I mean, even my
Yeah.
own parents, like, you know, I would get the comments of, oh, it's not that bad, love, you've got your health, or you know, like, there's people worse off than you, and awful things, you know.
Yeah.
And then friends excluded me. And I am a really sociable person, like, and I don't find it difficult to talk to people. You might have noticed that. But however, I was like the loneliest social butterfly going.
Yes.
I just didn't feel like I belonged anywhere.
Mm.
And I think, you know, when I got together with my partner now, I was with somebody but became even lonelier. This is weird because
Mm.
I was in an environment that was a family environment, and I've never felt so outside of it in my whole life. And
Yeah.
that, you know, like where I've got through the real difficult dark times. But this is what I wanted to say today is that like building up that armor that I did in the last sort of 6 years is what keeps me going through these times now. Because
Yeah.
when you're not a grandparent or a parent, or you're not seen as a role in that family environment, but you're supposed to be there whenever you need it, and whenever you need to babysit, or whenever you need to listen to a load of dramas, or, you know, not in a nice
Yeah.
way, you know, in a
Yeah.
nice way, because we are friends and I love them all. But you are, when it comes to serious issues, not wanted. You know, it's the dad, it's the other parent, it's the other proper grandparents, I say, you know. And I have found that incredibly difficult, because I felt so like I'm looking in a window and I'm like, I want to be in there. And sometimes
Yeah.
I'm in and sometimes the door's shut. And these are the things, you know, that I am now suddenly having to deal with. But the really important thing is what I'm trying to express is that the work that I did on myself and connecting with myself enables me now to feel the feels, but not let it get me down the way it did. You know, it doesn't overcome me now. Like I can be massively triggered. I can feel sick to my stomach by something, you know, but I can deal with it. And the things that have helped me, so things that I would talk about would be connection with people in this community.
Yeah.
Massively.
Super important.
but not even in this community, but outside of it. You know, my old friends and circles didn't support me anymore. You know, so my environment wasn't serving me. And I think when you realise that, okay, we've moved on and we're in a different place and we deserve to have a supportive environment. So if old friends, parents or non-parents, aren't there for us, then I got a little bit of a fire in my belly to say, I deserve more from these people. You know, I give a lot. I'm a very empathetic, giving person. And I realise I don't get much back from very, very few people. And so controlling that environment for me and actually saying I need to find new people in my life, be it parents or non-parents, because I have a mixture, but I have to create a more supportive environment.
So important, this community part. This absolutely, this has pulled me through those, especially those dark moments, having people in front of you. I remember the first webinar thing that I was in, and there were like 7 women who were all sharing the story, and then it was my turn and I was sharing my story, and everybody was like, oh yeah, I get you, I know what you mean. And everybody was literally nodding. I was like, oh my God, I feel so seen right now. Because the thing is, in the outside world, I call it, like I said, the people are compassionate for a while, but at one moment they're like, okay, everybody has their shit, so just move on. And you're not going to have that feeling of feeling seen and heard and understood with the outside world. And I think it is really, really important, and it's beautiful what you're doing with your app as well, is bringing people together who understand each other and build from there. It's like, okay, a really strange story, but last week, you know, we have our ups and downs, right? And there are moments that when you're feeling when you're feeling up, sometimes you don't want to be thinking about being childless, and you just don't want to think about it. So you put yourself into work, or you distract yourself. And so I woke up one day and I had that feeling like, I don't want to think about this today. But I had a call scheduled with one of the women from my women's circle, and we just wanted to hop on a chat. So we hopped on the call, and I was like, I'm going to lead this conversation. I don't want to talk about it today. And so I was talking about traveling and blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the call, we spoke for an hour or so, we hang up, and I felt so incredibly guilty, because I was like, oh, now I make it about me, but maybe she wanted to talk about it. This was like a one-on-one conversation. So I sent her a text, and it makes me even cry now if I'm thinking about it. But I sent her a text and I said, I'm so sorry. I was not in the mood to talk about it today, but maybe you were. So let me know. And I feel really guilty that I didn't give you that space. You know what she wrote me back? She said, she said, Rianna, we are more than just childless. And I was like, oh my gosh, that hit so home, because it's so all consuming. It's like what you said, the triggers are everywhere. The reminders are everywhere, and it just keeps going, and it keeps going. And we know this is not going to stop. This is what we take with us in our whole future. And then her saying that was really confirming to me, this is why we need those kind of people around us. The people who understand and who can address it because you would never want to hear this from somebody who's not been through it. Yeah, they would not understand. And this community part, wow, that is big. That's been really a whole journey of seeing how others deal with it as well, and then learning it from yourself. Then there's the other side. I don't know if you've noticed that, but when I was going through IVF, I was comparing myself with women who were pregnant, and like, why is she pregnant? Like, she doesn't even have a healthy relationship, or she's not even taking care of herself. She's smoking, she's drinking, like all this judgment. And then within like 1 second, I had the negative self-talk towards myself. Like, how can you think that? You're such a bad person. And I was just like beating myself up for even having these thoughts. Now I'm on the other side, and now I do the same thing, looking at other childless women, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she is so much further than I want to be there. And there might be people now also thinking like, oh my gosh, you guys can talk so easily about it, and it just doesn't work like that. This comparison that's been a huge lesson for me to find my way around that. And something that I really noticed is that we often compare our inside feelings with other people's outside looks. So we see this other person doing great, having everything they want, like they have that family life that you want, they have that beautiful house and a job, And we compare our inside feelings in that moment with our outside look. And there's, to just give one example that I had, I was in a podcast a couple of months ago, and there was a podcast about finding happiness after struggles. And the woman had 2 kids. I knew that. And she wanted to hear my story, how that was. It was really open, beautiful podcast. And then at one moment I was sharing the story. I said, Christmas times, holidays, these kind of things are really hard for me because I see all these family pictures coming floating down on Facebook and everybody's so happy. And it just really, it's really difficult to see that because that's what I wanted. And then she said, oh, I know what you feel. And I was like in my head, I was racing, like, you have no freaking idea. You have 2 kids, you have everything that I want. And then I did not say it. Thank God I didn't say it, because what she said after that, she said, I know what you mean. I always wanted to have a healthy family, and I have 2 children who are autistic, and it's really hard for me, like those family photos, it takes us 3 hours to get them even in the Christmas pajama thing. And she said, this is not how I love my kids, but this is not how I imagine it. And I was like, oh my gosh, you see, again, my inside feelings towards somebody, the other person's outside look. And that has been a massive lesson. Like, stay with yourself. Don't compare. Don't put high expectations. Don't say, oh, she's there, so it's 6 months now, I need to be there too. No, everybody is on their own journey, and grief is a roller coaster. I mean, and for some people, it takes just way much longer to get like 1 happy day out of the 7 sad days than other people. And it's okay. It's okay. This is your journey. This is your path. And what you said, Helen, I think that's so important. This is your moment and your journey to learn to find the answers within and connect with yourself again.
Completely. And I think, like, you know, I never envisaged being where I am today, and I don't talk about it too often on my social media because I don't want to, trigger or in any way, but, you know, I stupidly thought I'm going to go out with an older guy because he's got 3 adult children and they've all flown the nest, and I've only seen them, like, you know, every month or so. I don't know why. This is ridiculous. I never thought about grandchildren. This is stupid, isn't it? I didn't think about it. I just didn't think I'd be involved. And then now I literally have to have to look after her every week, you know, and it's amazing. But all the challenges that come with that, you know, apart from the incompetence of my partner who leaves everything with me, it isn't going live anywhere else, is it? YouTube. So the thing is, like, and what I think, oh God, what did I do 6 years ago? And the one thing I'd say, and it's non-negotiable to me with everything, and people that I work with, they always know this, it's self-love. I am the worst person. I beat myself up over so many things. I beat myself up that I feel a certain way. I beat myself up that I could be upset in a certain environment that should be lovely for everybody else, that I might be triggered. But honestly, when I actually thought, Helen, you know, you've got to love yourself more. Because I know it's cliche, but I've learned a sad lesson in life in the last 6 years in particular, that the best person and the only person who can really help me is me, because I think I'm the only person, if I allow myself, cares about me enough, you know. And when you think about how empathetic you are and how much you want to help other people, then how awful that you're so hard on yourself. I think without that work, genuinely, without the work of self-love on myself, I would never be where I am today. And I would never be able to cope in the environment of the stepchildren and the step-grandchildren, because the things that you have to do, for me, self-love represents boundaries, you know.
Oof,
like
big one.
I am expected, you know, I want to be part of this family. I want to be a grandmops, which is what I am. I want to be accepted. I want to be part of it. But I have to think about myself, and if there are situations which are difficult, then I want them to understand me. You know, it's not all about them. You know, it is about me too. And self-love of, like, being able to create boundaries, to forgive myself for mistakes of why I'm here today. You know, the berating I give to myself. I'm the harshest critic to myself. I can't talk to myself. It's actually sometimes quite cool, you know. And I am such a people pleaser. So it's always a yes, we'll do that. We'll have the dog, we'll have that, you know. And whilst I love all of his children, You know, if you don't love yourself, you've got to really put you first sometimes, which is difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you find it, you know, to actually, you know, to say, okay, I'm doing okay, and I'm enough as I am, you know, and I'm actually giving a lot in my environment now. I give a lot. And that's really challenging.
I hear you on this part, and I think this setting boundaries, that's been like massive. That made a massive change as well for me in those first couple of months, to say like, I don't want to go there, and I do want to be here. And this not going there, like that was really hard. If there's a baby shower, a party going on, and it was like, yeah, you're coming, and you go for the friend. The thing is, and that's something that I realized, I go there, I deal with it, I come back home, and I'm at least 1 week off, because it's just not a feeling, an experience that's matching what I need to deal with right now. Well, if I tell the person saying like, sorry, I'm not in the right place to be there, I'm wishing you a lot of fun, and let's catch up one day together for a coffee or something. It's going to be 5 minutes uncomfortable. She's moving on because she has her party and she has her friends around her. And I am taking care of myself. And I've noticed that the more I make sure of mine, especially when you're in deep grief still, it's like, the more you care about yourself and your needs, the better you can express your boundaries, and the better the people around you can help you and support you. But that's hard, because we are used to just give. And just like you said, I'm that person as well. Like, oh, I do it at cost of myself, so they at least are happy, and I'll come back and I'll re-energize myself somehow. But when you're grieving, your whole system is down, and the recovery is so long. So this setting boundaries has been like massive. And to just give one example from not that long ago, so my brother got his third child. He called me, because that's a thing that we do in the family. When the baby is born, you call your brothers and sisters and your mom and dad. So I saw the phone ringing, and I knew it was this time, and I didn't pick up. And I sent him a text, and I said, I'm so sorry, I cannot do this by phone call. Can you just text me if everything is okay? And he said, yeah, the baby is born, blah, blah, blah. And then he said, and this has been my work for the last year, talking about my situation. He sent me, do you want to have a picture? If not, I understand. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what setting boundaries is giving me now. I've been so clear when he did the announcement, I told him, I'm so sorry. I'm going to ask if I want to hear something or if I want to see something. But if not, know that I'm thinking about you, but it's just too hard for me to handle right now. So when he said that, like, do you want to see a picture or not? I'm okay with that. I understand. I was like, that makes your life easier, right? When you're clear, but this starts all from within you. You need to be clear on what you can handle and what you cannot handle, and express that. And that's been also like really big. Yeah.
And I hear what you're saying, because again, you know, one of the things that has changed my relationship with my partner, which has been really strained at times because of the family situation that I don't feel I belong in. And you know, and I really need to express how lovely his children have been with me, and how in the best way possible they've included me. They're never going to see it from my side, you know. And one thing that really, I mean, we've had fraught Joe McHale moments, if anybody knows what Joe McHale. But I had to keep saying to him, you know, this is difficult. You know, being in this situation, I'm not just being emotional, dramatic, awkward, like saying that I maybe don't want an open house, or I don't want.
But Helen, it's been 6 years now. Get over it.
Get over it. But I will always be grateful, because after he was like, "Oh, what are you talking about? You should be over it by now." You know, this was initially, and honestly, now he gets it, and he gets it because I just keep telling him. You know, I have to keep being honest about my feelings, and that's my boundary setting, because it's like, I'm not going to roll over and say, oh, I accept everything, you know, because it's that inner strength now that I can say, okay, I will give you what you need in that environment, but you need to understand that this may be difficult, so I need a little bit of compassion, I need you by my side, I don't need you expecting, I need to feel that you appreciate my effort, you know, and that conversation with them has really, really helped me. So I know that we were really keen to involve questions from people. So there's some questions in the Q&A, and I thought we could jump into that maybe. And
yeah, of course.
And then we can carry on the conversation. So the first question, and maybe we can both so there are two things I want to do openly, but I'm scared. What did you do in your scary moments when wanting to do something with your childlessness?
Oh, the first thing I want to say is be ready for the negative, like, how do you say that? Backslash or something like this. Yeah, be really careful with that. I've been not talking about it for like the first 5 years I was going to treatment, because I had this idea thinking like, one day I'm going to surprise everybody that I'm pregnant and they don't need to know about the whole journey. So, and when I started talking about it, people trying to fix you, they come with advice that you cannot do. And it was in the IVF journey for me, but it's now still as well. People say like, oh, you would be such a great mom. Yeah, I know, but I'm not. It's going to happen. I feel it. And like, how strong are you in that moment to fight it and go to defend yourself, or to say, I'm not dealing with this? And know that the moment you open up, there are people who are having comments or having thoughts about it. And I think the best way to start talking about your childlessness is be with people who are in the same situation, and there try to find your voice. Because I don't know how that was for you, Helen, but for me, I had so many emotions, but I could not put the words on it. I could not express and explain what I felt. So that's been for me the whole journey that I've been going with the women and the women's circle, talking about like putting words on my feelings. And once you get stronger in this, then I would say like, well, open up, and then you can a bit easier deal with the setbacks. I don't know, the critics of people who feel like you. There are other ways to become a mom.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I actually never spoke to anybody before I started doing the blog and the podcast. But I think I wanted, the biggest passion was to express that you can be happy. I wanted to sort of show, I didn't know how at the time because I wasn't happy, but I had a show that you can be happy. And I just thought, well, I kept my focus on that, you know. And when you get the negative, my focus is that this is my experience, you know, take it really. But if it can help one person, then I feel better, you know, because it's a difficult, lonely place. And, you know, and if I can talk out and if I can express my feelings, it may, and the messages that we get that people say, oh, thank you, you know, you made me feel understood and it's helped me, then any negative comment to me is by the by, because you'll get it in everyday life, won't you? True.
Yeah, that is true. So for me, it's been go for it. Sorry.
Talking over each other.
No, I just wanted to say what your driver is for the happiness. For me, it was nobody should go through this alone. This is, you need to go through this together with other people who understand you. And that's been huge. So
there's another question here, directed to me. It's about how advice on coping with step parenting. I found moving 2 steps forward quite challenging because it's putting myself first. And there's a husband and 3 kids who expect me to be there when I want to do stuff for myself. And I think this is where the communication to your husband and the family to express that our needs matter too. You know, we have lives. We might not be parents, but we have lives. And, you know, it's about being strong enough to put that forward and to say, look, you know, like for me, it's difficult because I do put people first. But I think that's sort of, and going back to the matrix that I spoke about, I do this all the time. So my matrix is like, you know, self-development, friends, family, health, fitness, terrible at that. Loads of different ones, you know, and I'm very expressive about the fact that this is my criteria in life that I'm trying to grow and develop. And I need time in my week to be able to apply to each of those and to create balance. And so for me, my partner and his children and grandchildren are one box of 9. You know, I need to keep focused on my drive, which is my career and my business and the coaching, and then my personal development, which was always so important to me. But I lost it. I just became like, not interested in myself, and I lost me. You know, there was a time I didn't even talk to people like me, you know, because I just had everything in this box. So I really would say that find your 9 boxes, you know, and create a plan behind those so it creates balance in your life, and be open with people around you to say, these are important to me too. You're really important, but you're not my, you know, not my everything, and not in such a harsh way, but because I think being childless, we're expected to just conform, to fit in, to go along, to be dragged along. I say that to my partner all the time, you just drag me along with you, and you need to come my way a little bit and look at what's important in my life. And thankfully, you know, I'm so grateful for his children and for him, but you know, that I would say is my biggest thing, is a part of my life, but it isn't everything, and I have to remember that. And sometimes that's hard, you know, and I do have difficult times seeing what I so desperately wanted. But I will say this, and people have mixed emotions about this, but I'm completely honest. I do believe I am gratitude, and I know it sounds like all woo-woo. It's not. I literally, when I feel like overconsumed by, you know, because I am the carer and the nurturer and the one that does all the mum things, you know, because she doesn't want to go to him. And sometimes it breaks my heart a little bit, you know, and openly, and I don't talk about this openly, so is my mum's reaction. So my mum is the most caring, open, generous person. And one of the things that makes me cry is the guilt of not giving my mum and dad grandchildren. Sorry. Yeah. The hardest thing is seeing the excitement in my mum.
I hear you.
With the little girl, because she's so excited. She turns up, she used to bring me presents, you know. I used to get perfume, I used to get Clarins stuff, you know, and she turns up now with knitted cardigans, toys, and it breaks my heart, but I'm so grateful that she's part of that. So didn't think that'd happen. So, you know, I have to look at it, my partner says, but look at the joy that your mum is getting through this life. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but she wants to go to every bloody clothes department, you know, like, and she's like, let's go and look, let's look. And she's over compensating, you know, she's over generous. And that makes me sad, because I'm like, Mum, you don't have to do this. But going back to the gratitude, so this is what that pulls me out of this, is I'm so grateful that she wants to be part of it, and that she's a loving person to do that. I'm grateful to be able to share that little bit with her, and I'm grateful that I'm in a loving family environment. And I think when I give love and I focus on giving love into a situation, then I feel better. Because a lot of the time, and honestly, you know, I feel like resentment sometimes, I feel like bitterness, I feel a little bit of envy, I feel like, just why have I got to do all this, you know? Yeah. And it's not me, and I don't feel like it's a place that I want to be. It's not a natural, ornate, authentic me. I'm a caring, giving person, and these are the challenges that we get, is that, you know, the challenges are that we're supposed to behave in a certain way all the time, to be loving and caring, but inside we just want to go, oh, you all just go away and leave me alone, you know? So yeah, so that is a challenge for me with my mum. But the gratitude, and again, I feel the field like I just did then. But you know, I'm excited for the next time she comes down to share that. You know, I hope she brings me some Clarins, because I really need it. But she won't. She'll bring another cardigan and something else. So yeah, so that was that. So
yeah, but this is interesting about I don't know if you've if anybody has ever seen that picture about grief and a jar. Like, I took a jar here to explain it. Like what a lot of people I love prompts. I'm a teacher in my background, so I don't have a ball to put in, but a lot of people think, like, if you imagine the grief that we are dealing with as a ball, and the ball is in the jar, and then a lot of times we think the ball is shrinking, the ball of grief. Over time, the grief is getting less and less and less and less in that big jar that we're having. But actually, what they've seen and what they've shown is that it's the opposite. It's not the ball that is shrinking, it's the jar that is growing. And I think being like how we are dealing now, and I see some people in the chat, like, thank you for being so open. This is the real thing. The grief is there with us. The grief is not changing, but we are growing bigger, and we have the coping mechanisms to deal with it quicker. It doesn't take the grief away. It's there, and the triggers are there, but the triggers are coming in, and you can recover faster. And this is something that time does. And that's been like the first months I was thinking, I will never get out of this. I'll never feel happy again. I'm never gonna like that. This is my permanent state. But then over time, you start having a bit more space. You can handle, you set boundaries, you learn the self-love, you learn certain things to protect yourself, to take care of yourself, to become bigger and bigger around that grief that we're carrying. And something that I've been doing, for example, is I have a happy list. Like, you know, there are people who are saying like, yeah, just think positive thoughts and the I am statements and everything really great. But if I say I'm happy and I'm not feeling happy, it's not going to come in, and I'm just mistreating myself by fooling myself. So something that shifted for me is when I started going back. Like I remember when I moved to abroad in 2011. And I remember that first day that I was walking on the bridge in Paris, and I had the relationship broke up. We sold the house. I lost my job. Like I had nothing. And I was standing there in Paris. This was before I was going through infertility. And I told myself, from now on, I'm only going to do things that make me happy. And that was my promise to myself. And that went really well until the infertility knocked on my door, and then everything fell apart. But then this is something that I've been really hard working on in the last couple of years. Like, okay, what makes me happy? So I've been really sitting down. I want to feel happiness. That's a really important emotion for me. So for other people, it might be, I want calm, or I want presence, or I want joy, or whatever emotion that is. And then how can you create more of those emotions in your day? Like create. I'm not saying making up. No, create, because you know it makes you happy. So for me, it's like, because I travel so much, I cannot have my own path. I go dog walking. I go to a shelter and I walk with a dog. I know that's making me happy. I take off my shoes and I walk in the grass. That makes me happy. So I've created a list now with all the things that make me happy. Because the thing is, the days that you're feeling down, you cannot think. You cannot feel happy. You cannot think of all those things. But I have now this list that I'm looking at and like, okay, putting my feet in the grass, that makes me happy. Well, I'm going to try. And I'm standing there. I go to the grass because this is my happiness and my happy list. And I go there to the grass and I'm standing and I'm like, oh, actually, it feels pretty good. So it's about creating positive feelings, whatever that is. Like we did this exercise in the women's circle, actually. And there was one woman said, I want calm. Oh, I remember the moment I was really calm. I had this candle. And when I was living in America, and she's from Europe, and she's like, I'm going to buy that candle again. I want to have that calmness again. And it's about this, like what, and this comes back to what you said about self-love. Like how can you serve yourself? Like there's one thing that I'm doing also every morning without as a caring person trying to first help everybody outside and then think about me. I do it the other way around now. And that's also something that grief has taught me, because it's such a roller coaster. Every morning I wake up and the first thing I do is ask myself, what do I need right now? Is that stay a bit longer in bed? I do it. I'm lucky because I have my own business, so I can set my own schedule. So that's maybe not for everybody, but what do I need right now? Is it a cup of tea? Is it a cry? Is it go see a friend and go for dinner and have some fun? Or is it no, taking my own time and really taking care of myself first? Because that's something that grief taught me. You can care so much about the rest of the world, but if you don't care about yourself, there's
you know, like I think also, like, just to throw another thing into the mix, if I'm not confident, hey, I'm perimenopausal. Like I hold my hands up. Like my hormones are screwing me up. So, you know, like this is what I think as well. You know, I was 40 when this all started. And then I'm not only facing like separating from my husband, end of a marriage, moving home, getting made redundant, then facing my body clock literally running out. But then all of a sudden, you know, like, and I talk about this quite openly, you know, your looks change, you get hairs on your chin, Rianna. You're probably not at that stage yet, but you will get.
Yes, I am, because I have low egg reserve.
Yeah,
so I'm in the menopause now as well.
You know, it's the perimenopause and all these things, and then you become a shadow of yourself because of the hormone. So you're like that. Which bit of this is it? Is it the grieving, the childlessness? Is it feeling excluded in the family environment? Is it my hormones? You know, so self-care actually. You know, because I self-medicated with Sauvignon Blanc for a long time, and it's sad because I used it to disguise my feelings. It's just not the healthiest way forward. But you know, it's self-care now, because I'm starting to learn that maybe a bottle of Sauvignon a night isn't helpful, and what you put into your body, you know, like the environment that you surround yourself with, what you actually put into your body, you know, that gut health mind connection, and how our hormones are affected by all of these different things. That's one of the things where I started to put myself first. It was like, okay, you know, I mean, I'm rubbish with exercise and stuff, but you're obviously very good at the grounding thing. But, you know, those sorts of things, because we've got other things to deal with too, you know, and that thrown into the mix is so difficult, isn't it? So that self-care again, you know, I always say my 9 boxes, that middle box has to be self-love, you know, that looks different to you than it does to me.
Yes.
Without it, it is, you're not strong enough. And the only way I built up that armor that is my wardrobe, and that SOS box that I got that I can pull out at any time, or I'm the best first responder to myself now, because I can deal with that emotion straight away, I can sit with it, and then I can use the technique that I've got to move forward, you know. So I would absolutely say that self-care, and recognizing we also have other things going on that could be affecting us. But one question I wanted to come to in the chat box, and for you, I think, Rianna.
I see. Yeah. How can you?
Yeah.
How can you get rid of the? Oh, sorry. We both want to read. No, I'm going to read the question so I understand what the question is. How can you get rid of the feeling that you wasted your IVF years, feeling sad, isolated in an emotional roller coaster, focusing only on being a mom and not finding joy in everyday life because you don't have what you're looking for? Oh my God, that's freaking hard. Trust me. And it's getting easier, but it's still like last week I was on the airport and I was standing in the queue to board the plane, and then, well, they announced like the priority lane for pregnant women and women with children, they can go first. And then you see this whole line with all those people. They are like, I always thought that one day I would be there, and I'm never going to be in that line. And it's so ridiculous because I don't want to need to be the first in the plane. It's just that confrontation again. But something, and this is only because I've done a lot of work around grief, and I like I said, it's never going to go away, but I have a lot of skill sets now to deal with it. There's one thought that I have since a couple of weeks in my mind, like if I keep going what I'm doing right now, what is my future going to look like in 10 years?
That's a good point.
And that's really helping me to say, like, and still be compassionate, because if I have a shitty day, I have a shitty day. I'm letting everybody know, and I'm letting myself know it's okay. It's okay. This is part of it. This is part of my journey. But also realizing that all the work that I'm doing, all the choices that I'm making, they need to help me move forward for my future. And like, for example, one of the things that I've been doing is, like, on the days that I'm feeling really happy, write a letter to myself. Because what's happening on the days that I'm sad, I don't know if other people have that, but I have this feeling like if I'm cold, I think I'm going to be cold forever. So when I'm sad, I think I'm going to be forever sad. And oh, look, I'm completely back. I didn't learn anything. I'm back at my day one. But what I'm now doing, because on the happy days, I write a letter to myself. And then on the sad days, everybody can tell me, no, you're going to be fine. I don't believe anybody. But when I see the letter of myself and I'm reading that and I'm like, oh, I do have happy days, apparently. So maybe tomorrow is going to be better. And really having this conversation the whole time with yourself. And it's hard to address this question, like, how do you get rid of the feeling that you wasted? Well, one of the things for me that's been really important, I didn't want to have regrets of anything that I've been doing. So all the choices I've made, I have no regrets of it. I would have loved not to have gone through that, but this has been part of my journey. How I'm trying to, or getting rid of the feeling that I wasted it, is really speaking up now. That's been such an important, that's why I've been in so many podcasts. That's why I'm here showing up today now, letting other people feel you're not the only one. Nobody should go through this alone, and find your people. There is a community out there. There are people who also taking small steps forward, falling back again, but keep moving. And I think this is also really beautiful and maybe you can explain it, Helen, why we chose for this title of the topic today, because it sounds really weird, right? 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, like we're not going anywhere.
I mean, like, I just want to also say though that, like, in my 30s, like, I wasted my 30s. I feel like I wasted my 30s on being in an unhappy marriage, not having the strength to move forward, you know, so made choices that maybe got me to where I am today, you know, that I am childless, not by choice. It was unexplained infertility, so maybe I could have found somebody to have children with. So that is massive potential regret for me, because I did nothing in my 30s, the best time of your life, they say, you know. Going back to what you said, at the start of my 40s, I was determined I was not going to waste my 40s, no matter how hard it was going to be. I was going to find my way forward, and it probably took to 43 before I felt okay, you know, before the toolbox was already built. I was determined. And the thing is, for me, you know, now I've healed a lot and I've moved forward, that 10 years, it wasn't wasted, because I learned so much about myself. I learned what not to do going forward, but I learned resilience like you've never known it before. The heartache, the turmoil, the being in a revolving door of, do I leave him? Don't I leave him? Where am I going to be? How will he cope? You know, how will I cope? You know, who is my best friend? And so it was like, it's not wasted. You know, the past is what formulates who we are today. And the only thing we have control of is like the now, isn't it? I guess. So I guess it's a great what you say is like, you know, you don't want to waste any more time, or you don't want it, you know, that in a few years' time, you know, the past.
I wasted already 6. I'm not going to waste another 6 or more. That's my drive.
Seeing the lessons learned from it rather than the things from it, trying to look at the gains from it rather than what we've not got from it. I think that's one of the things.
And that's freaking hard when you're still in deep grief. It's freaking hard.
It is. It really is. But I think you've got to, like, and again, so for me, again, my armor is connection with people. It is self-love. And that is tough. I'm rubbish at it. I blame myself for years for where I'm at. I blame myself for my grandparents, not being my parents' kids, for my husband not having children, for making him very, very sad in life. It breaks my heart how low he got in life. You know, so many things. And I beat myself up for years. So self-love was key. And what you said, acknowledging our situation, but sort of wrapping up, and I don't know if we've got another question we can just answer before. So I wonder what you might advise. I'm childless, not by choice, after IVF in 2022. I got COVID, now I've long COVID and been bedbound ever since. I feel pretty stuck at the moment because I can't physically do the things. It's tough. Any ideas how I can help myself to move forward?
I think it's a lot of the things that we share today, and you need to pick out what you feel that works for you. Like maybe it's creating that happy list, maybe it's focusing more on self-love. I think that's really, I truly believe that we have the answers within us, but when you're in deep grief, it's really hard to go to those places. So sometimes it's better to look for support outside. And again, everybody goes different through their grief journey, and there is no time frame for it. I think there are only levels for it. Like it's super deep, a little bit less deep, and not that deep that you cannot handle it anymore. And it goes in levels, and this time frame is different for everybody. And again, I keep saying it, find people who are in your situation. Like what Helen was talking about, like having a stepdaughter, find people who have the same, because they are the ones who are going to resonate. And it's not about sometimes not even about getting advice from each other. It's just to vent and like, oh my God, she did that. And the other person like, oh yeah, I know what you mean. And that can feel so, so healing, because this connection, this feeling seen, heard, and understood is foundational. We would not be here if we don't have connections around us. So it's all about finding new connections, because the old connections, most of them are not working. So finding these new people, it's about like there is this difference between being safe and feeling safe. We are being safe. I hope most of us are not living in a country where there is war right now, where you don't have food, where you don't have a roof above your head. So we are literally being safe, but feeling safe is a whole different level. Are you around people where you feel safe, that you can express yourself, that you can decide not to say something, that you can decide to say something in a place where people are going to address you in a way that is healing and empowering for you, and not not putting you down or well, not helping you move forward. And I think that's
And just to address Emma as well, I mean, I would say like, I think the whole situation is very, very difficult when you're not living where it's like that written expectation of a story in your head that you had from years ago. This is how my life should be. And it's that sort of like rigid, I can't move away from that. You know? And it was when I went, hang on a minute, like maybe there is the possibility of my life to be different, you know, so different that I can now create it. And when I actually started to think, actually, I'm the creator of something here, that I haven't got what I necessarily wanted, but I can still have something that brings me joy.
Yeah.
And actually, I started to get a little bit of excitement when I was like, I can rewrite my script. That's okay. You know,
it's this identity shift, right? We identifying ourselves with becoming that mom, and we see that all around us. And then we cannot. So who are you? Yeah, it's reinventing yourself,
aren't we, on ourselves? And I think the kindness, be kind, you know, of being in a situation, especially going back to the question about long COVID. I mean, you know, that's such a difficult position to be in. And the expectation, we should be doing this, we should be doing that. It's like, wow, let's be kinder to ourselves.
Yes.
In the positions that we're in, try and do even connecting, speaking to people, personal development, you know, all these things can help us. But I don't know if we've even got time for, we've got a couple more questions, Rianna.
Oh yeah, ignoring feelings. Yeah, this is something like, I was from the beginning like, okay, let me go deep in this whole grief thing. I need to process everything that happened to me, because I know if I don't go deep right now, it's gonna hunt me later, years later. And it's already hard enough to deal with it. And I've talking to women who've been 20 years in the journey and they are miserable, devastated. And I always had this fire in me. I don't want to end up like that. There must be more. There must be a life outside of this big dream that I have. No, it's not what I wanted. And I say a lot of times, like, I'm living extraordinary life despite not having what I want the most.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't mean that I don't want it. If I could change my life right now, I would do it. But it's not. So how can I create that extraordinary? It's like people saying like, thinking like you can only be happy or sad. No, you're both. And one day you're a bit more happy and one day you're a bit more sad. And this is the journey we're on, and find people who understand that.
Well, just because we're getting to the end of our session.
Yeah.
I promised Steph I would stop talking after an hour, which is impossible. We
can keep going, I think.
I know. But
there's so much still to share.
But what I really want to say to everybody, right, we both looked at, so this title, I don't know if it was Karen or Steph who got the title 2 Steps Forward, 2 Steps Back. And both of our initial reaction, which we only found out about when we spoke earlier, was that, wow, that doesn't make sense because I've come so much further than 2 steps. That means we haven't gone anywhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I want to add a statement at the front of this title of this webinar. And that is 1,000,000 steps forward. So now 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. Doesn't matter now. You know, I have made these 1,000,000 steps forward. Gratefully, I'm so grateful. And now I do have steps backwards. And the question, what are my steps backwards, it is obviously the, as you can see, the step grandparent, step parenting, which I love, but also has deep emotional triggers for me. And so now that I can take those 2 steps back, I can move 2 steps forward because in the knowledge, I have moved 1,000,000 steps from where I was 6 years ago. Yeah. And I do believe, I read a book, Dan Sullivan, I think it was, like The Gap in the Gain, is that we look so much at what we don't have and the gap in our lives. But actually, I am so incredibly grateful for the gain I have got, because if you all knew me 6 years ago, you probably wouldn't want to have known me. So but the gain is the steps, and it's small steps. This didn't happen overnight.
Yes.
Small little adjustments that create monumental change. And I can truly vouch that just that little bit of more self-love, of the 8 boxes, of you get building your armor, you'll wake up one day and you go, wow, how did I get to where I am today?
And notice that, because we forget sometimes exactly what you say. We're so focused on the negative or we don't have, but notice the small improvements you're making, because you're making them no matter which level of grief you are, which level of your journey, you're making improvements. Like you have that trigger, you see a pregnant woman and you're like, hey, actually, I can deal with this a bit better now. And notice these moments, because this is going to help you move forward too.
Yeah, so I think that's my final, what I would want to say is that, like, you know, keep making those small changes and keep finding the right people to work with you and to talk to you and to be there for you in the community, because it will be making a difference even though you don't see it now. Because when I didn't feel it, I needed someone to say, keep going. So that my thing, my final part in short is keep loving yourself, keep going, and keep talking to people, including ourselves. We're always available.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. So thank you. I want to say thank you so much. And I'm sorry if I got emotional. I didn't expect to get emotional, but it's all part of the story, and I want to be authentic and genuine. So
yeah, thank you so much for everybody showing up. And no matter where you are in your journey, we're sending you a lot of love and strength and love mostly.
yeah,
Be compassionate with yourself and don't compare, because everybody has their own journey and everybody is finding their way, and know that there are people out there to.
Yeah, and I'm also so grateful for this community. Like I've said it before, but I've really,
Oh my gosh,
helped me grow so much. So thank
well,
you.
me too. Yeah, exactly. Hopefully we can pay it forward this way, right?
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.